just keep the conversation going so you don't think about it.
Yeah, it's easier to just talk person to person than when I imagine that it's
Well, tell me
person
about
to
yeah.
100 people.
Oh, well, it's just don't think about it. It's just me and you.
Okay, wow, yeah. All right, good. Yeah. Just us.
Let me keep talking about it and tell you not to think about it so you think about it more. I'm just kidding.
Like, don't think about my boobs, don't.
Oh my God. Can you tell me about like what your music background or something? Like
yeah,
you know.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Roswell and I was listening to rap.
That's crazy.
And
so did I. What the
Oh,
heck?
you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so I loved like Another Bad Creation and like who did that song, Motown Philly Back Again, and like Salt and Pepper, and
okay, just R&B, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, R&B, pop rap, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And then I moved to like really red town where everyone was white but me, and I just had a hard time with that. It was kind of a culture shock for me to go from like running around kind of feral with all my friends of all different backgrounds, and we were all kind of equalized though, because it was like a lower income apartment complex, and so there wasn't really that feeling of like wealth inequality or whatever, because we were all just the same, just like feral kids running around, latchkey kid kind of situation, so that was kind of one of the like highlights of my childhood, actually. So I'm telling you this just to tie it back into music, and I was listening to the same music my peers were listening to. And then when I moved to Cumming, which at that time I guess it was the early 90s, mid 90s, it was really just a very notoriously racist county where I moved to. So I was in 5th grade, and I was the only person of color at the whole school.
Oh my God.
It was it was kind of weird. Like, that's right at that age too, where you start really caring about how you look, and whether or not you fit in with your peers. And all the young ladies in my 5th grade class had perms, and they had their hair just in this beautiful, like, wild waterfall sort of fringy, like, oh my God, I needed that. I wanted it too. And so I like attempted a perm.
Oh God.
It was terrible. It was a big mistake. So I was listening to, when I got there, I started listening to, well, not really listening to it, but I was hearing a lot of country music. Just like Elvira.
Oh, yeah. There's so much country in my veins, dude.
Like the CDB, did you ever listen to this?
Is it? I was
the Charlie Daniels band?
Oh, I've heard of them. Yeah, I was like, there's like acronym bands, yeah.
Long-haired country boy and whatnot. So I was listening to that. I was like getting that suddenly, and then I had this. There was a woman who lived next door to where me and my mother lived, and she was like a really hardworking businesswoman. She was a single woman. Well, I mean, she had her boyfriend come stay with her from time to time. And this boyfriend was a musician, and he would play periodically with the Indigo Girls, or so he said. I was so young, I didn't know Indigo Girls from what. But he started giving me CDs, and he gave me the box set, like the complete recordings of Billie Holiday.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and like Melanie, I know, and Melanie Safka, and Jethro Tull, and just all of this music from an era that I wouldn't have ordinarily been exposed to. So right about there, right at that age, like 13 or 14 or so, when kids go through like their second terrible twos, starting to like individuate and pull away in different ways.
Like middle school, music is a huge deal. I think that's when you start really taking music seriously.
Yeah. So I started making music of my own around that time. And I played the guitar. I taught myself to play just from looking at, I had like the guitar chord poster, And so my grandmother got me a Tascam 4-track, and I started doing my own like cassette tape, analog recordings. And it was just, it was sort of like, that was my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would go in my room. I used to say, I'm going to go sing with my friends.
Oh my God.
And then I would just like layer the tracks and harmonize in that way. So and Joni Mitchell too.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, it was good. So I got a lot of sort of disparate, influence musically. Oh, and then I was listening to in the encyclopedia on the computer, like in the old school big blocky computers, and they had like they had an encyclopedia in the computer lab. They had an encyclopedia program, and you could go through and listen to the music of the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I played Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, and it was just this silly like finding the bad guy thing. But each they had USA, and then they had the world. But each state that you flew to had like the local music, and I was like, and I still to this day hardcore remember those songs.
Me too.
Were awesome. And then the world. I think I don't know if I actually played the world one, but I know they had that. Yeah, I did. It was just music is so powerful. It's one of the, to me, when I realize when I'm older, it's one of the most, like, you just don't forget music. I'll randomly start singing a song, and I'm like, what is that from? And then I figured it out. This is such a random side story, but it's still related because it's music. Hey, when I was in middle school, I was in a chorus, and it was an awesome group of people. We were like hooligans. It was so much fun. Our school got chosen to sing and dance for the opening ceremonies of the Paralympics. So we took like a bus down to Atlanta and did that. And I just broke out. I was like, come on, everyone, let's have some. And I was like, what the fuck is that from? And then it came to me, and I was like, oh, now that YouTube exists, maybe the opening ceremonies is on there. Because we did that, and I never got to like see it because no DVR, and I don't even know if that was televised locally. Anyway, I found it, and I like rolled on the floor screaming because they showed it was the whole opening ceremony. But
you found it.
Yeah. Well, basically, it's just like there's a lot of song in school, or with like learning a squared minus b squared it was just this like mathematical thing that of course I can't remember that whole one, but music is so powerful to trigger memory. It's like smells. I don't know where I was going with that. Basically that's I
totally understand.
That's awesome. So you're still doing music though, obviously. I mean, you wrote that chant. Was that, or have you been doing music since your youth, or did you kind of break away from it and then get back into it?
I actually, that's a good segue. I started playing music when I was about 13. I was playing and writing songs, and then I started playing gigs at 14. I would go to coffee shops, I'd have to get someone to drive me there.
There's so much confidence. Jeez.
I was really scared at first. It was so scary. I was just trembling.
You're really putting yourself out there. It's, I think, a total vulnerable moment,
Yeah. It felt really vulnerable. And then I kept doing it, I would play at coffee shops at first when I was younger. And then when I became like around 15, 16, 17, I started playing at places that served alcohol and whatever. And at first I just played for tips. And I remember the first gig I ever played at the Connor House coffee shop in Dahlonega, Georgia. Oh my gosh. I think it was like I made $42 on a Tuesday afternoon. Wow. And to me, it just felt like such riches. I couldn't believe my luck. Yeah. I was just a kid. And so I went to there was like a little jewelry shop, and I bought myself a little ring just to keep forever. And I lost it, of course.
I did. God.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking.
It sucks. Yeah. But it felt so good to have something that I could do and then go, earn money, and then people would be really friendly and talk to me and ask me questions about myself, and it felt really good to have that. And so I just kept on seeking it out. And then eventually I had my first child when I was 19. And that was a good way to make money in a short period of time that I could get like a girlfriend to look after my daughter for me at home for a couple of hours and go out late at night when she was in bed and play the blues in and around Atlanta.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was, it's sort of bittersweet thinking back to those times when I had to really hoof it to earn, like the electric bill. And there were many instances where I found myself quite uncomfortable and scared because I was just a young woman on my own.
Were you a single
out
mother?
there? Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a lot harder once it wasn't just all for fun, and just discretionary income in and above the support that my parents automatically rendered to me. It was tough. And so I guess right now I still play music and sing all the time and record songs. But of course with COVID and whatnot, I don't really go out much at all, but I don't miss those days of being like all gussied up and sitting there with my guitar and singing like this song with all my heart, and then having some drunk spunion yell out, "Hey, do you shave your kitty?" It's just like that's not good. It didn't feel good to have. And plus it was frightening too if you go out late at night.
Of course.
And then like that walk back to the car holding your materials, the amps and mic stands and the big guitar instrument cases, and you just feel so fucking vulnerable going, there are countless times I remember feeling so uncomfortable, or like men just approaching me on the street and accosting me and like insisting that I talk to them. And I would just turn right back around and go inside the venue and ask someone I knew, usually a dude, because like, let's face it, the men tend to leave you alone more if you're walking with another man.
Yeah.
So I'd have someone escort me out to my car and stuff. And that was terrifying. You learn a lot about, I had to learn really quick how to be careful and be ready, just carry a knife, be ready to whip out your knife and learn how to cut someone if you have to.
No, I mean, it's not crazy. It's just like a way of life for women. Mace, whatever, taking self-defense classes. It is a reality.
Right.
I know you want to talk about, patriarchy and your, I don't even know your experience, or I don't know if that was a good segue or not, but I'm just like, let's get into patriarchy.
Let's do it. Let's talk about it. I am just really, I think you and I have this in common. I'm very new to the concepts presented by radical feminism in terms of looking at women as a sex class and placing our class in history, and looking at what's happening now and how, patriarchy has evolved over the last 10,000 years. And the impact that patriarchy has every day, because it's sort of like the fish doesn't notice the water that she swims in. I feel like for me, I don't know where I heard that, but I feel like being immersed as a woman in patriarchy, and they're not teaching about patriarchy in the public schools. They do mention the founding fathers, the founding non-birthing parents. That was a joke.
I know. I thought so, and I was like waiting for the laugh. It sounded genuine. Excuse me thing. I was like,
excuse me. Uh-oh. I don't want to laugh at her. She's serious. That might have.
No, I'm not serious. I don't know if you're going funny, so I'm like, eh. They don't teach anything in school. Don't apologize, please. They don't teach anything of value. I mean, yeah, like how to balance your checkbook, how to do money,
Mhm.
how to save money. I mean, not just all money, obviously, but how to treat other humans, realizing the
Yeah.
differences between the sex. I don't know. Like, it's just, how to be in a marriage, how to have a kid,
Mhm.
whatever, like all that shit. No one teaches you. You literally just
Right.
jump right in to all that stuff.
Yeah.
Be like, I don't know. I mean, I mean, I guess thank goodness in a sense that people have the internet now. You look that up, but even that's been, I think, the fall of humanity, like straight up.
Hmm.
The internet's terrible. I mean, of all the
It's
good stuff about the
it's
internet, I'm
really.
like, I don't think we would have been better without it, 100%.
Hmm.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only good thing about it for me is that it has allowed me to like indulge my curiosity, and I like to learn. I read and
Oh
read
yeah.
and read. And I think it was because of the internet that I was able to start really piecing together exactly why it hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It just hurt so bad. And I'll tell you why it hurt. Well, I'll lead up to it. Like I said, I grew up in a lower income neighborhood with a single mother. And I feel like for women, the trauma is generational, obviously,
Oh yeah.
and we hear about female socialization, and that's not something that just happens to just you automatically as a woman, like a young girl, and then you grow up. There's this long line of women, of generations and generations of mothers before us who had to comport with the oppression of gender performance, who had to
Mm-hmm.
perform femininity in order to get along and not be well, basically attacked. Because women in patriarchy, if we fail, and that's fail to perform femininity, then we're punished. Some women are even killed or physically attacked and assaulted or verbally and emotionally abused for failing to submit or to signal our submission. And so this is just a deeply entrenched generational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to say too that patriarchy is not just a like a concept of leadership where the men are making the rules. Patriarchy is effectually a war on women and girls. It's a war on female people where we as a class are the underclass and men as a sex class are the overclass. And so I was a young girl growing up. I had a lot of time to roam with my friends on the streets um, while my mother was working, because she had to work a 9 to 5. And it was a struggle for her to make ends meet financially. And I think she did remarkably well in that regard, considering, the deck was stacked against her. She had
Right.
like a high school education, and I think she could type, but she was just attractive, like you, like blonde and just beautiful. And so she could get herself good jobs
Yeah, life gets
as a
easier.
secretary, of course,
Yep.
like,
Yeah. Eye
um,
candy.
right. Yeah. She would go and she had to spend so much time every day. And I would sit there before school. She would wake up at like 5:30 in the morning and take a shower, shave every surface, make sure she was perfectly plucked. And then after removing, she would then apply and then like curl. She was, like the
So time
classic.
consuming. It's
It
so
is, yeah.
performative.
And I
Yeah.
just remember, yeah, like seeing her like doing her makeup so meticulously and pulling her pantyhose on and toddling about in her high heel shoes with her tight little wool tweeds, and I was just
That was a
like,
great visual. Good job.
yeah.
So
And
accurate.
yeah, and I was like, oh God, my mother is so beautiful.
Mm.
I just want to be just like her. I want, and I never did actually turn into just like her.
You're
I was
beautiful. What
always
the
like
heck?
the,
Natural
oh,
beauty.
oh, thank you. Well, in a way, when I was a child, I would, because my mother was like my standard of
Mm-hmm.
just I admired her so much, and I saw how beautiful she looked, and she just dressed up and stuff. And now I see it differently, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think like, how nice would it have been for my mother if she was a guitar player years ago, and she had to sell her guitar to pay the rent one time, which really fucking sucked because she was amazing at it. She was a classical guitarist.
Wow.
But I think how nice would it have been for this beautiful woman who is so sensitive and to be able to play the guitar and be loved for who she is, and not how well she comports with the Eurocentric standards of femininity that are imposed on women and girls by patriarchy. Fuck. It would have been so much better.
I know.
For
really,
my mother.
That's a real authentic self,
Yeah.
Without having to add on all this stuff or change really your body. I mean, not obviously not permanent, but still, it's so tiring. I used to do whole face makeup looks. I still do makeup, obviously, but my God, it would take like all morning to really get it right, or at least to my standards, I guess. Compete with like the Instagram looks, which all of it's fucking edited anyway. It's just so freaking time consuming and time suck. And I love makeup. I do find it to be like, I totally get what you're saying, but I do believe some people, makeup's fun because your face is a canvas and you just get to play with it. But it is incredibly time consuming, and the whole shaving thing. I've started to think about that lately. I'm like, God, I really want to ask. Well, I really ask myself, like, well, why are we shaving? Like, if it's naturally growing on our bodies, who told us that we have to remove it, and that to remove it and be hairless in random areas on the body is a better, hotter, or like more appealing to who? Like, if you're at an age where you're not trying to like look attractive to anyone, and you just wear what you want because it's what you want, why are we still performing in this way? We as in me. I've been around some women, recently where I'm like, whoa, she's beautiful and she doesn't shave her armpits and doesn't shave her legs. And it's like that epitome of what I was all scared of about like feminists, like hairy, smelly, angry, butch women, whatever. I'm like, this woman's, I mean, no one's smelly. And hairy has nothing to do with like, it's just so funny how all this shit is bred into me that like hairy is ew. But I'm like, it's so dumb. It's like,
it's so dumb.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
It's so dumb, but you're not dumb. You're just wonderful and lovely.
Oh, thank you. I mean, dumb as in like, why is that taught to us? I don't know. It's very, I think it's clear it's someone's idea of what women should be. It's perfect little thing.
That reminds me of when I was 17 years old. I stopped shaving because I decided, why would I want, my mother was a big proponent of making sure that I looked my best, as was my grandmother. And so when I stopped shaving, my grandmother, she called me, she said that she heard that I had stopped shaving. And she said, I want you to know that I'm very disappointed in you. And I was like,
what did you think when she said that?
Well, I felt bad. I was like, please don't be disappointed in me. I'm still me.
Did she explain why? Why?
Yeah. I'll tell you exactly why. Okay, here's another grandmother story. Good night. This is my white grandmother, which is how I refer to my white grandmother. And then I refer to I refer to my Filipino grandmother as my Filipino grandmother.
You don't say. Wow. Makes sense.
Yeah.
How dare you make sense? I'm offended.
So my sorry. Like my
just get all your sorries out. Okay, we're good. All right, next, let's get on with it.
My white grandmother, I was 13 years old. Okay, so my white grandmother, she told me, speaking of patriarchy, she told me that she was an early bloomer, as they say, and that, well, okay, so I'll go back to my story. I was 13 years old. And I asked her, if you had any advice, grandmother, to give to me, like words of wisdom that you really want to pass to me that I can take in and just take with me through life wherever I go. Because I really want to receive this from you, which is like the question that I dream if I ever become a grandmother. My granddaughter should ask me that, I would just be like weeping. I would be like, oh, my darling. And then I would spill out all this like wisdom and stuff. My grandmother, she she's got her little drink, she likes fine crystal and scotch. She's got a clink, and then she's like, marry a rich man. I was just like,
I thought you were going to say, don't forget to shave, darling.
no. And I believe that my grandmother knew that if you perform femininity, that is, if you shrink your body and you like
dainty.
make your more childlike, you've got like nice bolted down skin, and if you're thin and smooth and well, and you pluck and you shave.
It sounds like you're describing an alien straight up.
yeah. Well, and I mean, this is much more likely to land you a dominating masculine man, the type of man who can like that dominating man who can win and have lots of money and hoard his wealth, and he is looking for that nice looking status, like with the nice little waist and the little big old boobs and just the whole thing. Trophy. Right. Yeah, someone who matches his hoard of nice things, of stuff, because women in patriarchy, we are treated like we're stuff, which is the actual essence of patriarchy itself. It's the commodification of the bodies and the labor and the reproductive role of female people, of women and girls. And so my grandmother is just a wonderful, colorful example of how we internalize the traumas of patriarchy, of thinking about ourselves as stuff.
Yep.
Because when we're putting on or not us, I mean, I cannot speak for any other women, obviously, but just as a class, I'm thinking like people like my mother and my grandmother, when they're putting on their masks of beauty, and their clothing and their tresses that get this lifted up and that squeezed in, and, all of that.
So much effort.
It is
on the body and exterior.
Mm-hmm. It is, but it is very much, you are, it's like my grandmother told me that it was like you're advertising yourself, and that you must present a desirable package. Wow. Yeah, so that's why I stopped shaving when I was like 17 years old, or maybe 16. Yeah, I was 16 because that was when I was going through I used to like to wear t-shirts with like animals on it, so like wolf t-shirt phase, I call that. Like I was always wearing
t-shirts wool, like half my clothing is just me dressed up wearing not a t-shirt.
So yeah, I just stopped cutting my hair and I stopped shaving, and just didn't, I didn't do it. I didn't wear makeup and stuff. And she was
why though? What did you see about it that you didn't like? What was your feeling of like? Was it rebellious? Was it like, I don't want what my parents or your grandmother and I think you said mother, like what about it was it like, that's not, I don't like that?
Yeah, I think
don't know how you thought of it.
Yeah, I thought it was, I think at the time I was responding to something that a lot of girls are still experiencing, and many women and girls experience long before me. This emotional awareness that I don't fucking want to be stuff. Like, I'm just, I don't want to be liked by men. I don't want to be commodified, and of course those were not conscious thoughts in my mind at that time. I think I just thought like, it's okay, it's okay to have hairy armpits because like, if you don't like my hairy armpits, then just kiss my hairy armpits and fuck off. Like, so I think it was like a reaction, very much so. And then I kept up with that. Like I still don't shave. It's been so long since I've shaved that I really don't think about it anymore, but I have, but I guess like, I guess the rare occasions that I appear like in public or whatever with my armpits out or whatever, and I can see like sometimes people are like, oh, you don't shave. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I had this one asshole tell me one time that it looked like there was a tarantula trying to crawl out of my fucking armpit.
I'm like,
And I was
what?
like,
Look at you. I mean, I'm
yeah,
assuming
I
he isn't straight. It's
know.
so stupid. It's so
Yeah,
dumb. Like, why
he
does that
looked
make
like
me
a
feel
little
so insecure? What does my body have to do with you? Why is
right.
it? Ugh,
Yeah,
it's silly.
I know. And can you imagine him saying that to a man? No. Motherfucker wouldn't go up to some great big man with hairy armpits and say, "Oh, dude, your armpits look like tarantulas crawling out your armpits." No, he felt entitled to comment on my body hair.
You're not supposed to look like that.
Right.
I didn't tell you could do that, even though I don't even know you. You don't even know me. Here I am giving you authority. Ugh, yeah. Ew. God.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a real asshole too. I don't talk to him anymore.
Oh God, you know him personally? It's gross.
Yeah.
No, it's funny you're saying about the body thing. I kind of wanted to add my thing, even though I'd love to hear you. But
yeah, go ahead.
When I was young, I very quickly, like, I got, boobs, and I was not comfortable with them. Go figure. A lot of the trans youth, of course, I just, like, this whole trans thing is so devastating. Of course, women and young girls would be like, I don't want to be a cis. Ugh. Like, I personally did not like the attention. I specifically like had my hair long, but I'd always have it in front of my breast. Like it was like a protective thing to have my hair always in the front, and I'd always walk like this. Like, I wore sports bras like all the time. I just did not like male attention. I think it's fascinating that some young girls and, girls and women, like, really, I think a lot of that is sexual trauma. I've recently heard about that, and I had no idea that was a thing where some women can become, or I don't even know if it's maybe all, I don't know the statistics, I have not researched it, but women can become super hypersexual and, like, deviants after they've been raped or sexually abused. And I was like, oh my God, how fascinating. So, and I don't know what the reason is, but when I was reading that, someone said it's a way to, I can't remember, to kind of like bury the original act or something. I can't remember, but I was like, holy shit, I didn't know that was a thing. And it made me look at my life, and I don't know, not that I don't know, it's just crazy, like, daddy issues or whatever it is. I just never understood. It makes me terrified to see these, like, OnlyFans women and shit, like, it's weird because it's like women taking advantage of men, and they think that, like, in the sense that, like, they know what that men would just tumble into that and give you money, but they think that they have, like, the upper hand, like, sex workers work. I'm like, what? That you're not superior. You're selling your body. I know that there's better arguments about it, and I don't know why I'm tumbling into that. It just makes me really devastated. I'm like, and then some of the youth have no idea what they're doing, like dancing on Twitch or wearing scandalous stuff. They don't realize this, like, they haven't lived enough of their life to be, because if they're just now wearing, like, anime Japanese schoolgirl uniforms and dancing on Twitch, they have no idea who that's appealing to. They just know that it gets them attention, and who the hell wouldn't want attention? Anyway, that was just a little tangent as usual. Welcome to my tangent.
Yeah. I see what you mean about how, well, just you have an early sense when you start to go through puberty as a girl. You have this early sense of men suddenly treating you like
violated. Ugh, so gross.
Yeah.
It's always older men. It was not often teenagers, like, in your school. It's like, this is so gross. Like, oh, it's so gross. Even though it may not be physical touching, it's just like catcalling and just so gross. Ew.
Yeah, like that guy with the tarantula armpit comment felt entitled. Not only to
title this one tarantula armpit.
The tarantula armpit guy, fuck off. Yeah, title it that. Yeah, he felt entitled to, like, a whole lot had to lead up to that moment where he walked up to me and commented on my appearance, on my hygiene preferences, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. A lot had to happen, like the background to that is that he was raised in a patriarchy that told him that his body hair, just natural hair, was a-okay and wonderful and natural, and he didn't have to modify his body in any way, and that was okay. But he must expect women and girls to be very careful to never show any body hair other than the hair that's on our heads. We have this sense of not wanting that, of make that stop. And so back to my grandmother, my fabulously fabulous blonde grandmother, she told me that she was an early bloomer, that she developed her secondary sex characteristics very young. And as a result, well, this is how she presented it to me. She was very young, and she got a lot of attention from older men because she looked like she was 21 purportedly when she was 12. And so she had her first child she got pregnant at the age of 15.
Oh my God.
I know, 15 years old. That was about the same age I was when I asked her for her words of wisdom to carry with me through my life. I never followed them, by the way, like the marry a rich man.
Oh, yay. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, I know. But she had taken, and then back tying that into what you were talking about, the way that you see women and girls on social media platforms or like monetized video platforms where they're stripping for men or performing various acts of fetish stuff for money so that the guys can whack off while they look at them. And they have this idea that they themselves have the upper hand and that they have almost weaponized feminine performance. But the problem that I see with that analysis is that the commodification of the female body and the commodification of women and girls, labor and work and sexuality, the policing of our sexuality, these things are the basis of patriarchy, the basic framework of patriarchy that exists. And within those male-centric structures, with a government that was made for males by males, white males, and with laws that are made by legislation where women are grossly underrepresented, and for the longest time were not at all represented, So these laws and this culture and the mores that go along with the patriarchal religions, these are the frameworks of our culture. This is the structure. Like inside the walls of my house, there are pieces of wood and there are, bolts and nails. It's like the wood and the bolts and nails, the foundational structures of patriarchy are so deeply rooted in the whole culture. Just everything from the 9-to-5 workday to unpaid labor, and who's wiping the baby bottoms and who's doing all of the housework or most of the housework, usually most of the housework. Even women who are, purportedly liberated in patriarchy and who work outside of the home. If you're partnered with a guy and you live together, then statistically, it's true that women are the ones doing much more of the unpaid care work and domestic labor that is the very most basic necessary work of life, of maintaining life itself. And so for someone within that framework to use the fiat economy, which was made for men by men, and feel that by weaponizing or monetizing your performance of femininity, which is to me the same as performing submission to men, you cannot be empowered by that, because even if you somehow manage to earn enough money to profit from selling your images or from allowing, ostensibly granting consent to Johns, you're still going to have to exist as a female person within all that framework, immersed in all that hate. You're still in the goddamn trenches in this war on women. You're there. And I feel like that idea, gosh, what an idea, gosh, what an idealistic way of hopeful, wishful thinking, of looking at oh, I'm so beautiful and I'm going to weaponize that and I'm taking advantage and like, look, I'm rolling in money and oh yeah, it's great.
And
But
give it
every
to the
day,
man that made you think that that is empowering. Like
right? It's not fucking empowering.
No.
Because if it were empowering, then the women who are engaged in sex work, the women are in prostitution, the prostituted women and girls, and I guess I'm going to include women who do cam work, and as well as women who are, you know, who are trading sex for like a shot of heroin or whatever.
Yeah. Sugar daddy culture.
Yeah, I guess I'm not up on all of the terminology.
It's basically women that sleep with really rich, usually white men or just men in general, where they get like fancy cars and apartments and whatever. They just do. It's just like another form of prostitution. Like, I have so much money, come and get it.
I feel like, yeah, that each day, you know, in this patriarchy, we're evaluated constantly. Our physical bodies are either sexualized or invisible, you know, and we're evaluated for our appearance. And each day we get another day older, and every day older that we age, that's one day less fuckable we are. You know what I mean? That's one day less valuable we are. And these are not my values. But these are the values that were implanted in my mind by my patriarchy, you know, by the patriarchy and my female socialization, you know, to just
Hollywood.
Constantly,
if you're like 30 years, if you're like 35, kiss your acting career goodbye. If you're 35, you're playing like a grandmother. Like, it's insane. And I think it's gotten even worse. There is a great documentary about that, and I cannot find it for some reason. It's about it was like 3 or 4 like really famous women in Hollywood that were talking about, you know, just the age and how much it starts dwindling. Just dealing, I think it was also dealing with being a woman in Hollywood. Dear God, any sort of entertainment industry for really anyone is dog shit. It's terrible. You're just used entirely as a unit. So I mean, the whole age thing is so hilarious. I really think that has changed over time. Like old women, you know, you watch like, I don't know, Twilight Zone or something, and women, I'm like, whoa, she looks old. And look it up, and she's like 36, and I'm like, wow, it's so twisted. Like it's just, people don't think about this stuff. When you look at movies now, it's like subtle brainwashing, honestly, and it's getting worse. Like all these women are going to like plastic surgery places, doing some crazy dramatic body alterations where the husband doesn't even know it because they're rich. And I'm just like, look at how it just once you start realizing, you're like, oh, what patriarchy? I've heard of that before. Because I used to think it was like a thing that was in the 50s and that like feminists in the 60s or 70s like overcame or something.
Right.
And then I started realizing, I'm like, oh, you just start to realize how much in culture, cartoons, everything, like you were saying, the walls around you, your entire existence is like patriarchal. And nobody realizes it. It's really devastating to look into that. And I always say, I think that's the biggest reason why I didn't want to become a feminist. I think subconsciously I knew it would be a nightmare and it would be horrible to like look at.
You're gonna get punished.
I just knew it was gonna be fun, but you know,
it is devastating.
There was like a phrase, ignorance is bliss, but knowledge
it's not bliss.
I know, I'm trying to think of it. I know, I'm trying to create a good phrase there, but I'm like, knowledge is freedom. I don't know. It just makes you a better I'm not sure. It's kind of hard not to look at some stuff with that lens on of being like, oh, the white man wrote that into a cartoon, because it's like I want to be able to still laugh at stuff and not take everything so seriously and be that woman that can't have fun and watch something that was a jab at women. But it is also still a process for me to go through, and you know, I don't know. I guess I should stop feeling bad about that, just because who wouldn't like start seeing life in a totally different way? At least for me, I totally see it in an interesting new lens. And it's unfortunate because I feel like only people that get to see this or really start looking at life in that lens are the women that have been raped, abused, and become feminists. I feel like a lot of the feminists, either you were raised like that, like your mother was a feminist or your grandmother or whatnot. I mean, it seems to be, at least in my experience, that getting raped or abused is what made me be like, fuck this shit. And it just kind of happened. And I started talking to a lot of other women, and it's just like, what woman has not been physically assaulted or raped? It's
Mm-hmm.
so insanely common.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. Like,
Mm-hmm.
raise your hand if you've been inappropriately touched or whatever. And like every woman raises their hand.
Yeah, every woman. Yeah, and that's sort of, I like the way you said that. It is insane. Um I remember just when I was in my teen years, I just felt like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. And I can you bring me back to going crazy? Because I wanted to say one more thing about
Yeah.
sex work to you,
Yep.
just to close that little bit.
Hmm.
I I wanted to say there's this rhetoric going around that sex work, or being prostituted or prostituting yourself is empowering. And to me, I just feel like I was going to say, the more experienced you become at, the services provided when you're prostituted, um, the less valuable your work is, because men don't want a woman who has wrinkles or cellulite. Like, men are after little young girls. The younger, the better. They will pay a premium for a girl who looks like a child. And that, to me, what in the fuck is empowering about having a job that the better you are at it and the more experience you get, the less valuable your work will be, until ultimately you will be discarded. And women in
Oh, yeah.
prostitution are the women who are most likely to be murdered by men, to be murdered by their Johns. It is not safe. And the legalization of prostitution will not empower women, and it will not make women safer. I've learned about that by looking at the Nordic model, and there's a great website that's really comprehensive called the Nordic, or it's Nordic Model Now. I think .org. So yeah, check that out and just read through. It is so eye-opening. And also, women who speak against prostitution are often said to be sex worker exclusionary feminists. And I'm going to tell you right now, I have myself been impacted by the sex trade. Okay, and that's all I'm going to say. But I am not excluding women and girls. I want to punish the men who, by dint of the patriarchy that supports their dominion, feel entitled and empowered to exploit women and girls' bodies physically by basically raping women and girls with the ostensible consent for a nominal fee, because they happen to have the money in their pockets while the woman does not. And I believe that nothing happens in a vacuum. There's a reason why the woman does not, and he does. And that reason is not her fault. And I do not blame women like my grandmother, who have internalized the values of patriarchy and who, using whatever tools they may have available to them, go hard into femininity and just try to marry a rich man. Like, that is not my cup of tea, and those are not my values. But I can understand and accept that some women are so deeply traumatized by just being told all their lives that you're a thing, your stuff, your body is a commodity. Now show it to advantage and see if you can.
Yeah.
That's right. Get the protection of one male so that you don't have to service many males, like, it's understandable. And I don't want anyone who's watching this who has been impacted by sex work, or who performs femininity, or who, like me, is married to a man, or, to feel like feminism isn't gonna open her arms and want you to, because we need everyone in this fight, because it's a war, and we all have war wounds. We all have them, and we're sisters, and we must create a culture of resistance and resist in every way that we can muster, by coming together as a political sex class. And that includes women in sex work, or women in prostitution. That includes women who are stay-home moms, women who are lesbian, who are separatists, all of us. We're all sisters, we're all women, and we've all got to band together and fight this shit. And speaking of empowerment, just one last thing on sex work and empowerment. I hate using that term, but when I say that term, I don't mean to legitimize men using female bodies. I just am referring to the practice of prostitution.
Yeah, and the language they're using currently, I think it is good to use the language they're trying to use, but it's important because you're reframing it into what it really is. So I think because I find that hard to do, where I try not to use like any trans language, but then I'm like, I kind of need to let people know this language made up crap to describe it. It's like a really difficult thing for me to juggle, where I'm like, I need to say it so you understand what I'm talking about, but I don't want to say it because it perpetuates their ideology and their religion.
Right.
Cult,
exactly.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. That's exactly where I was coming from. Thank you. Mm-hmm. But one more thing I was going to say about that is that where's the power? Where is power? Just look at the world around us. The power is in the hands of the rich. The power is in the hands of men who are empowered to just be their natural selves, and who make like 25 on average in this rich country more dollars for the same job done.
How performative are the rich men, by the way? What men are the men that do their hair right and wear the awesome suits? They're usually like overweight and frumpy. They don't need to do any performative shit because they carry all the money.
They have the power. That's right. They've got the power. They, money is, I think, basically just a way of moving power around, and withholding power as well. But if you look at who has power, just in the hierarchy that we live in, the social strata, the hierarchy of patriarchy and where we are right now, culturally speaking, who has the power? Okay, let's just take let's say that senators and Supreme Court judges and the president, that these are people who are primarily, there are a lot of men in power. They have power. Well, to empower means that you're given power then, right? That you're going to get some power. So if sex work is empowering to you, then where are all of the prostituted women who are senators? Where are they? Where are the prostituted women who are, working in the court system, making the laws, sculpting the laws to help support their sisters? Where are they? They're not, because prostitution is a construct of patriarchy. God, I could go on and on.
Oh, and also I've heard, if it's so empowering, why wouldn't any men do this OnlyFans stuff? Like, it's just such a joke. It's like, it's laughable. If it's like, oh, I can be empowered if I was a man. Like, men know, because men know it's not true. It's just, and it's very clear that like AOC was like, sex work is work. I'm like, oh, you're a woman. And who told her that? Who told her to say that? Money and men, like, straight up.
Yeah. And I think, obviously sex work is work. It's horrifying work. It's really horrible to have like a disgusting John breathing his filthy halitosis face on your face, just like, it's horrible work.
You're not a human. You're totally objectified. It's disgusting. It's not.
Yeah. You're right. You're a human.
Like, how the fuck is that empowering? You're being reliant on a man who has money. How is that? Because I always envision empowering was, I can do it myself. So I'm like, that's you relying on the man with the money. Like, how is that?
Yeah.
What? It just breaks my brain. You said that you said you wanted to circle back to going crazy, and you're talking about going crazy in high school stuff or something.
Yeah. Crazy. Women are just told all the time, oh, she's crazy. What a crazy bitch. She's just, she's hysterical.
Which means logical, really.
Because that's what I'm thinking. I remember just when I started to think more deeply about what was going on in the world around me, that world I lived in, and what was happening to the women I knew, and what had already happened to me by that point at the hands of the men I knew. I began to go crazy. But really, what could be more sane than responding to years and years of abuse, of basically living in a goddamn war zone, then getting depressed, then feeling anxious, feeling crazy, because you can look around and everybody's, they're pushing their carts and picking out which bread they like. And it seems pretty cool, like everything's okay. And then inside you just have this feeling like you just want to scream. You don't want to get up and have to do an instant replay of the day before of drudgery, and that you just feel this feeling inside like, why the fuck does it hurt so bad? And here's the thing. For so many years, I believed that I was hurting so bad because there was something inadequate about who I was inside, that I was an inadequate woman, that I couldn't do it. There was something broken, something wrong about who I was, and I was deeply ashamed of it. And then I began to learn about the plight of women and girls as a class. I began to identify into my class, my sex class of women and girls, of female people. And I started to realize I wasn't going crazy. I was breaking sane. I was responding in a very logical, understandable way to a situation that was fucking intolerable for me and for so many of us. We struggle so hard against this pain. We use our own strength against ourselves, telling ourselves, oh, we just need to try harder and do more self-care, or we need to eat raw food and jog and meditate or whatever. It's not that. It's not that there's something wrong with how we're acting. I mean, I guess sometimes it could be, but it's that we are constantly being inundated with messages of objectification and misogyny, of hatred of women. And as a woman, you are going to feel that shit, and you're going to deal with it in the best way that you know how, using the only tools that are made available to you, which, by the way, is not something that male people are going to have to deal with. They're not. I asked my husband, how do you feel walking across a parking lot? And he's like, oh, I look around, I'm thinking like, oh, it's a nice sunny day. And where'd I park again? Beep, beep, looking for my car. And I'm like, you know what I think walking across a fucking parking lot? I think I am going to have to make sure that there's nobody hiding in my back seat to rape me and slit my throat. And I'm thinking, like, I want to make sure that I hurry up and get the baby strapped into her car seat as fast as possible, so that I can get in the car quickly and lock the doors. And, it's like you have to be on high alert. And I guess there are times, of course, where I can really relax and feel good, but just sort of this immersion in terror. I had this statistic pulled up. Speaking of terrorism, here it is. It says 6 women are killed every hour by men around the world. And these are primarily men who are their romantic partners or members of their family. So this is terrorism in your house. Women and girls are being subjected to abuse behind closed doors. And there are so many of us that are being killed right now. Just as we've talked, women have died while we've been talking here. And how is this not a terrorist attack on women as a sex class? You know what I mean? These are men doing these murders. These aren't women killing women. This is men killing women and men killing men, So I just think that if that many women were being murdered by, let's say, an airplane were being flown into a building full of women, or women and men once each year, and we have all those thousands of deaths, then, oh my God, the United States government, we'd be just all up in arms. We'd have people enlisting. We'd be wanting to go and fight that terrorist enemy. But because it's women,
This doesn't
Where,
happen.
where, where are our heroes? Why can't we collect our wounded? Where are they? The war wounds of patriarchy are inside most of the time and outside much of the time. And I have a friend who was sexually abused. I'm not going to say her name, but the people who know me will know who I mean. And she was a beautiful, brilliant, passionate woman, creative and caring and wise and hilarious. She loved animals and babies, and she could cook the best tasting food. But all the time she carried with her, it was sort of like shrapnel. You know, if you're in a literal, actual war in a battle and you incur some heroic injury and you limp back, you know, she limped back and she grabbed me on her way. You know what I mean? Like on the battlefield of patriarchy, she grabbed me and she helped me to escape from my abuser with my baby daughter.
Wow.
She managed to do that, even though she was carrying around her own wounds. She had been just really, really harmed from the age of 9 to 14, and then traumatized afresh by the happenings in the legal system and how they treated her and didn't believe what she'd been through because it was so fucking horrible. And that man is alive, and my girlfriend is dead. And I believe she died of her war wounds. She took her own life. She couldn't take it anymore. And I don't think that was cowardly at all. I think that my friend was a hero. And that we have to remember that women, we must try to understand each other and band together, because unless we come together and lift each other up, take each other's hands, and join against this terrorism on our kind, they won't stop. They're not going to stop. It's getting worse and worse. All of the horrors of pornography.
I was about to launch into that if you were going to. I mean, the whole, I keep mentioning that, but it's always relevant to these conversations. Porn and the trends of that, like anal was the cool thing, and then I can't remember, like deep throat, and now it's choking. Like choking. I mean, there was a fucking TikTok, I don't know what it was, I hate even mentioning it, but I don't remember, hashtag whatever, choking challenge, and a 15-year-old girl died in Italy. This was like a couple of months ago, like really recent. I mean, what the stuff that's on TikTok, that shit should be outlawed. I mean, there is rampant BDSM, rampant highly sexual, choking like it's fun thing. And there's so many kids on there, and like, God, the floodgates, the internet now, what I'm seeing is pedophiles and groomers and predators running amok. I mean, the gates are open. I'm like, it's not even it's about to happen thing. That shit is happening now. It's a miracle that I didn't have shit happen to me, because I used to partake in the AOL chat rooms. And God, I would like, I was so young, like I shamefully sexted with people, like making up scenarios, and they would send me their photo, and I was like, whoa, this is so funny, like so ignorant. I didn't know this is how they get you. You don't know. They sent me a photo of like this guy looked like an Abercrombie model, and I think it was, and I was like, whoa, he's hot, in my mind, like that's what he is. And then I could talk to another guy, or God knows what it was, and it was the same photo, and I was like,
the same photo?
Yeah, and it made me realize, like, wait, this is all not real. The people, I was like, oh my God, it's so unfortunate and obviously terrible that young girls and women have to go through like abuse and boundary breaking. People I think don't think about enough of the mental like rape and abuse and shit online. Just because it isn't physical rape, it's still like, I mean, really traumatic.
Right.
And God knows what that impact had on me. I don't know. It was just like, God, and that was back then. And I just know now that it's gotten obviously way worse. Oh, it's
way
horrible.
Worse, yeah. I was listening to a talk that Gail Dines did for the American Association of Pediatrics, I think. I think you can find that talk on YouTube.
Nice.
But Gail Dines, I don't know if you're familiar with who she is or what her work is. She is she's a professor of, gosh, I can't remember, sociology maybe? Golly, sorry, Dr. Dines. I can't remember what she's a professor of.
I'm sure she's going to watch this. She's going to be the first one that watches this and goes,
oh, I know. She's going to hate my face. But she is a radical feminist who is an absolutely amazing voice for the liberation of women and girls from the horror of pornography, which, is basically the documenting of the suffering and exploitation of primarily women and girls, almost always for men to use as masturbation fodder. And this is a huge billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry that, make no mistake, you're clicking on free porn, but these are just the gateways. What you're looking at is the exploitation and suffering of women and girls, most often young women, younger the better, right? And so Gail Dines, I was listening to her talk that she was providing to the American Association of Pediatrics, because she's approaching pornography as a public health disaster, because it is. I mean, the effects that it's having on the children and women and men, particularly young girls and young women, it's absolutely devastating us. So I think definitely if you want to check out Gail Dines' work, she's got it down. And what she was saying is that she went to a prison and was interviewing a pathological child rapist. And she was asking him questions about, his process and what exactly was going through his mind. And he made the comment to her that, well, the culture did most of the work for me. The culture did the grooming for me. And so it seems to me that, like you said, the impact of pornography, and then the way that porn has leaked into the popular culture of cinematography too.
Yeah.
Like, you can't turn on any new cool looking movie on Netflix or a series or whatever without seeing porn and women getting strangled and shot in the tits. And, just like, it's like, what the fuck? People, wake up. Wake the fuck up. You're not looking at a fantasy when you're looking at porn. You're looking at a document. And the chances are this woman or this girl is hurting, suffering, and is being demeaned. Her body is being mutilated by these men, and they're horrible. They're just like giving her hell.
Just an object. Right. You're not a person, even remotely.
Yeah. No. And the average career in porn, I think, is like 3 months, because you get like fistulas, vaginal fistulas where where a wound opens between your rectum and your vagina, and the vaginal wall is like ripped open. You get prolapsed rectum.
That shit is like a fetishy. That's like a genre now. Like the mutilation. Oh, I'm not kidding. Like the mutilation of women's bodies, like abuse and rape. That's like a whole genre.
Right. And to think that men are looking at that. No. To think that children, that young boys, because the average young boy is looking at porn for his first time. Most 11-year-old boys have seen it.
And they show their friends, and they access it on school computers. I've heard of one story. It's not even, I hate saying it as a story because it sounds like it's made up. It's real. Some parent found out that their kid was looking at porn on like the school lab computers. And they told the school that, and the school's response, pretty sure it was a male, obviously. Anyway, they were like, well, that's not our responsibility. You need to make sure you watch what your kid is watching. Like, they didn't even do anything about it. It's like somehow it's on the parents to like make sure that they watch it was just so wildly like denying shit. It's just what I see constantly is men protect men that are rapists and abusers. It's really like they are fully aware, and it's this whole underground society. Not even underground. I mean, once you figure it out, it's just,
they don't have to go
everywhere.
underground.
I know.
They're just like, grab them by the pussy. They're completely fine with being horrible to women. And they're even the language there. It's like, it's a conquest.
You want to hear how, here's comes some revealing, embarrassing stuff that I was like, oh my God, just the shit that, however I was raised in the South or whatever, when Trump said that, the grab him by the pussy thing, I literally was like, what? It's just bathroom boy talk.
Mm-hmm.
Because I spent so much of my time on Reddit, and Reddit, once I started, I guess, not transitioning, but embracing my femininity and being a woman and realizing how powerful that is and how much I think society doesn't want women to embrace that because they're going to be screwed if all women woke up and realized how much power they have and we band together and they have on their own. Men would be fucking shaking in their pants. I think it's very purposeful that I think, because I used to, like I said, I thought femininity or feminism was like, ew. I think that was so intentional. Of course, that would be bred into women to be like, it's nasty. You don't want to discover that. I'm like, what a great brainwashing to have on women to be like, you don't want to look at that. Don't even look at it. It's bad. It's smelly. They're judgy. It's incredible. It's so eye-opening. And devastating, obviously. I just realized how much I normalized and was like, well, that's just how men are. I spent a lot of time on Reddit, and my God, Reddit is obviously the most woman-hating place, but I didn't realize it until I became a feminist. I mean, how crazy is that? I was on Reddit and for years and did shit, I don't know, whatever. I'm not going to get into that now, but it's crazy. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. You start looking at just the Reddit /r/memes. It's just so much woman hatred, and then the little boys laugh at it, and it's really fucking disturbing. It's like every forum meme is like a joke about women and Karens, which Karens are just the logical women being like, I want some fucking answers. It's the women that are like, fuck no, I want to see your manager. You fucking suck. This is an incompetent place. Notice how the blame is always on the women for sticking up for themselves. Oh, pitiful, annoying women. Be quiet. Shh. Shut up.
It's like, it's like emotional abuse on a mass scale. Like in a romantic partnership with an emotionally abusive man, he will treat you like crap and, just make you feel like you're worthless, and he'll insult you and undermine your success and undermine your skills. And then when you start crying and you say, what the fuck? Fucking stop this. He's like, oh, wow, look at that. You're just crazy. So it's like blaming the victim for our response to abuse. That's classic gaslighting, classic abuse tactics. And so, the trick is to stay true to that inner knowledge that you have. Just our feelings aren't lying. It is abuse, of course, grab them by the pussy is common everyday jock talk as they spun it afterward. And that makes it okay. How? It's even less okay that it's considered okay. You know what I mean? It's even worse that it's considered just so normalized that a woman's body, because a woman is her body, that a woman is someone who
can't identify out of this.
Right. Yeah. And a woman is just someone you can possess or grab or consume. It's really horrifying to be a woman right now and to know, oh God, and then walking through the market, sometimes I just see these men and I'm like, I wonder if he was looking at porn. He just, because most of them are, they're out there. They think it's just a harmless fantasy. God. And that reminds me.
I mean, I've talked to so many women lately that have had porn ruin their relationships or their families, and it ruined my family and didn't know what it was at the time. So I wish I didn't know that, but here we are. It's crazy. That's way more common than I think that people realize. It's just obviously something that's very who talks about that? It's embarrassing if you're the woman that's in a relationship and just had that happen. It's embarrassing to be the man and admit that. Plus, what is there to admit if you're a man and you think that watching porn is okay? It's like, what do you mean? Isn't it okay? I'm just imagining that's what they think.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm a mom, so I've been in the mom scene for a long time, and I have a couple of groups that I'm in that are like social media groups where that are just for moms, and every other post is like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I just feel so overwhelmed. I'm so alone. I feel like I just want to die. This is so hard. I didn't know it was going to be like this. Just women who are, especially stay-home moms, who are financially trapped in their
That is
situation.
so common.
And they don't know what's happening. They don't know why it hurts. And then there are also tons of posts in mothering groups like, should I be upset? Like, I feel really betrayed that he's looking at porn, but I don't know how to feel. And that's just it right there. You mentioned the shame that women feel when they are impacted by a man that they're romantically involved with who has a porn addiction or who is using porn at all. And they feel ashamed that they somehow, and I think that that's female socialization right there, that we are the receptacles of shame, that we women are the ones who should feel ashamed of ourselves when it's him who is masturbating to documentation of women and girls being raped.
We're not over that website. That we're not the one doing. It's just
it's him. It's his shame. The shame belongs on him. There's nothing wrong with your body. You don't have to look like a young 17-year-old girl with, piercings or whatever, like porn ready or what have you. That is just that's a very pornified standard and it's pedophilic too, if you ask me, because adult human females have fat cells. The war on the female fat cell is just so ubiquitous. Like, we are not little thin reed like sylphs. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are real mature women, and that is beautiful. That's okay. And furthermore, it's okay not to be beautiful. Fuck beautiful. But so, God, there's something else I wanted to say too. Like, oh yeah, his shame. We are the receptacles of shame. There are words in our culture for whore and slut and slag. And this means a woman who has sullied herself by having sex, right? And there is no correspondent word for a man that has the same, just like really derogatory, purgative tone and nuance. There's no such word for a man. Like a father, for example, could go out and purchase a prostitute for his son as a coming of age gift. Oh man, love my dad. What a great guy. But then, we revile, we socially malign women in prostitution because they are the receptacles of the John's shame, because they're female. We are socialized to take it on our shoulders and eat it as though it were our own fucking shame. And I see no reason to continue to do that. As far as I go, when I began to realize that I have a class, I belong to a kind, my women are my kind, and we are all in this together. We're all in this shit together. We're all on the same team, and that's female people, not men, not male people, not males who think that they're women, and not males who dress up in, and perform femininity. Those are men, and they are welcome to perform their femininity if they like, but they're not my kind. They're not sisters. Yeah. They're not my sisters. They can ally themselves with the cause of liberation for women and girls as a sex class, and I welcome that. I welcome male allies. But no, you're not one of us. Stop. Just no. Just no. You cannot know.
Never.
No. You cannot know what it is like to grow up and survive being a girl in this culture and become an actual woman and being a woman. Woman is not an idea that a man has in his mind. A woman isn't a performance. A woman isn't a set of body parts. No.
It's not a feeling. It's not a feeling. No, I don't wake up and go, all right, remember you feel like a woman. You must keep
Right.
remembering it. There's no
No.
mantras. There's no, I could take up all my makeup and put on a t-shirt. I'm still a woman. I don't have to technically do any of this.
Right,
It's so
exactly.
stupid. It's a lie.
Right.
If anyone's telling you that, it's a fucking lie. No one's born in the wrong body. It's the body that you were literally born in. That's just
Right.
it. Whatever
Or
the body
even
you have.
further,
Mhm.
right? Even further, you're not born into a body. You are your body. You
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
yourself. Like when a woman is raped, nobody says, "Oh my God, her vagina was just raped, but she's cool. We're going out to lunch in a minute." Like nobody says, "Oh, that guy's penis just raped a woman's vagina," but the police are looking for his penis now. Like, no, there's no separation of self from your body. Think about this. You're born, you're a baby. You're born to a woman, by the way, and
Yes.
your brain is very
Always a
malleable.
woman, only a woman.
Exactly.
Female.
Your brain is very, even if it's a woman who says, "Oh, I'm a man," or "I'm non-binary," and look at me, I'm pregnant. Like, okay, thank you, sister. I understand you're doing what you do. You're a woman. But the baby's born, and babies have a very plastic, and I don't mean like plastic as in a material, but I mean plastic like a malleable, moldable brain. Like your actual physical brain connects different synapses as you learn. And when your five senses are stimulated in your infancy, those synapses begin to build. And the same synapses that are stimulated over and over again grow thicker and stronger. And that is called learning. There is a scientific basis, a replicable, observable basis for this concept of brain growth and brain development. So when your brain grows and you develop as a result of your genetics, you're born with perhaps a genetic propensity to the obesity or being tall or whatever.
Wanting to argue all the time. I don't know.
Yeah. Hello.
No, not you. I was thinking of my husband actually.
And then your environment is giving you even more stimulus, and so you become you develop a personality, and that personality is developed because of the stimulus that is taken into the body. The five senses are bodily, and the brain is an organ in the body. You are not a personality that is separate from your body. You are your body.
Yep.
And the idea that there's this dualism, that you have a self that is like an ephemeral spirit, and then you have just a meat suit that the spirit is in. And there are some girl spirits, and there are some fey gender spirits. And that these are implanted by some deity or by some twist of the wind, or I don't know what the fuck. Right. It is a philosophical, almost a religious proposition.
Yeah.
And I believe we are free. Thank goodness there are a lot of places where people aren't, to cherish our traditions, to have our religious beliefs, our spirituality. It is a very personal and wonderful, all of those qualifiers. Fine, do your thing. But no, I'm not going to do it too. I don't believe in genderism. I just don't. I believe in science, and I believe that women as a sex class in patriarchy for the last 10,000 years have been stepped on. Our unpaid labor, our reproductive work, our agricultural labor, our domestic work, our free subsidies for the men to live lives of greater discretionary time, freedom from drudgery, and empowerment. Okay? So, yeah, no, I don't believe that you can identify out of being a female in patriarchy. And I don't think that that's, what's the word? Transphobic? Like, fuck that. If I go up to, let's see, I'm having tea with a Catholic nun, and she tells me that I ought to come to the services and participate in transubstantiation and eat the body and drink the blood of Christ. And I say, oh, is that figurative? And she says, no, my child, that's literal. When you enter into the church and you consume the wine and the bread, that is not wine and bread. That's the body of Christ, literally. And I'm like, oh, right on. Okay, well, I'll check my calendar and let you know, and I don't happen to agree with her that that's literally the body of Jesus Christ. I am not theophobic. I'm just not agreeing with her about her philosophy. And that's not to say that her philosophy is wrong, but it certainly isn't something that should be enshrined in law and imposed on women and girls.
You can't even define it. Like, what the fuck is it? It's so ridiculous. It's so stupid. Oh my God. It's so predatory. And like, literally they're preying on the vulnerable youth. It's really devastating, and it's shocking, and it's one of those things where I'm like, God, I wish I didn't know, but then I'm like, I do know, and here I am, I'm doing something about it. I'm doing what I can about it. And it is terrifying. We are the outliers or the rebellious people speaking the reality, truth, and all this stuff that they want to believe. Like, okay, you're a fairy. Okay, put on your wings. That's fine. But like, reality is going to show you its cards and show you its true colors in many situations. So as much as you want to think these things, it's just so... It's so sad because, I mean, there's so much cover up with all this stuff with all the doctors and therapists. They are blatantly lying about everything. They only give them the one option, which is, the affirmative. And no other option. I've heard someone explain it or describe it or compare it to like, well, can you imagine having cancer or something and they only, or whatever it is, and they only give you one option? Like, where have you ever heard of that? That's crazy. And it's a medical pathway, like a physical... Like, it's just, why would you not, all of it's so intentional. Why would you not go to the figuring out, like, did you have childhood trauma? Like, really dissecting all that. Because I've heard time and again, it's childhood, like, sexual abuse or, I don't know. God, it's so awful.
Yeah.
And trans and homosexual people. It's so common. I've heard the, lesbian community has taken a huge... I don't want to use the word beating, that's a terrible term to use, but just a huge, they've had it really been impacted awfully. Like, lesbians in their 50s are turning trans. Like, it's just, I think it's so sad.
It is really sad. It is sad. And I just think, that there's the term trans, to me, it's overly broad. It is very vague and overly broad when you have, for example, a 15-year-old girl who, like me and you, Lindsay, started to realize, like, oh shit, like, this is not okay. I don't want this. No, I don't want to be in this. And they think that being in this it's being in the body. No, there's nothing wrong with her body. There's something wrong with patriarchy. There's something wrong with being victimized again and again and again by the oppressive gender norms of patriarchy that are imposed on women and girls. That's what's wrong, but she doesn't know it. She's handed an answer. And the answer is, you're trans.
Remember, if you think you are, you are.
You are.
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
So this young girl, after 10,000 years of patriarchy and the generational abuse and the war on women and all the shit that we've been talking about, she's taking it in. She's on the internet and learning about what it means to be trans. And she's like, I feel like that. I feel like that. I feel like I don't want to be in this body. I feel like I hate my body. I feel like I don't want to be a woman. I feel like I'm a man. That's it. That's the answer. Bling. And then she gets the affirmation model from the parents who are just so woke and the doctors who are just making money, and afraid of losing their medical license if they're accused of transphobia, because if you don't affirm, you'll get canceled. Everybody's getting canceled. It's bullshit. But to say that trans is this girl, right, who is using whatever tools available to her to try to fight back, to try to escape from her suffering. And then a 54-year-old man who has grown children, whose wife took care of them all of his days, and he has a thriving career, and he's got a six-figure income. He's had it all. He has a PhD. You know, he is addicted to. He's got a sissy porn addiction. You know, he likes diapers. He wears diapers. He makes his wife like change his diapers and stuff, and it's humiliating for her. She hates him, and he decides one day that, you know, the reason why he's not satisfied isn't that he's a fucking pervert. It's that he's a woman. To say that this man, living in 10,000 years of patriarchy with all the benefits of his maleness, and this young girl, this 15-year-old girl who wants more than anything to have men stop regarding her as female, are the same, that's myopic. That's fucking lame. It's myopic. You know, you can't say that underneath this umbrella of, oh, acceptance and love and compassion and be kind. I do not want to be kind to a man who is imposing himself into women's spaces
and stealing tampons and pads and wearing them and inserting them in his fucking asshole. Like,
right?
No,
yeah,
or grinding up against another man, trans-identifying man in a bathroom with their penis out. Like, I've heard so many stories. Like, this doesn't happen. No, it happens. Right. Or we've been peeing beside you all these years. And so suddenly you think we're still okay with it, even if you have peed beside us? No. Even if you get your member chopped off, I still don't want you in our bathrooms. I, like, flat out. I don't. Because I'm not going to partake in your delusion. In fact, I think I really feel bad for them because my society is affirming and pushing them further into this destructive mental, you know, body disconnect that is not helping anybody. Not only is it not helping the people out that are thinking and being told that they are trans from everyone, but it's also, it is affecting me. I'm a woman. This is directly taking away our safe spaces that we've had to create to stay away from fucking men. Are you insane? To have men say that I'm a woman, I should belong in your lactating classes. Get the fuck out of here. It's a fetish. I think people need to talk about it more, about it being a blatant fetish. Women are so blind because I believe it. They're just like, oh, this poor person is weird and I want them to feel okay. You can borrow my baby for a couple of hours. Dear God. Just wake up. People just are so naive to... oh, not every man, or not all. I'm like, no, that's not the point. Like, God almighty. What was that phrase I heard? If there was a room full of poisonous snakes, or it was a room full of snakes and only a couple were poisonous, how would you feel going into that? What the fuck? And you don't know which ones are poisonous? Like, how is that any different? I'm so sick of this shit.
Yeah, God. Right. Yeah, and let's remember that while we've been talking about that, how many women? Let's see. Yep, 6 women have been killed while we've been talking about this. These are women, you know, killed because they're women, not because they're identifying as a pornified set of submissive behaviors, but because they're female people, fully whole embodied people, and they're gone right now just because. So no, we are not. We've got all the work that we can handle right now as female people, as women, trying to help our sisters who are lost right now, who are trapped, who are disenfranchised to such an extent that they can't even get clean water to drink or to wash their bodies with. You know, we have to seriously get together and pull. We don't have time to protect men from other men. We don't have time to make that our cause.
Yeah, I'm not your mommy. I'm not your babysitter. It's insane. Right. Why do we have to be the shields for men? This is crazy.
Right.
Why does it automatically, without any question, go into, oh, we should just allow these men into women's, you know, prisons? It's like, well, then by theory, shouldn't the men who are like frail and more feminine also be put into the ones that get bullied or whatever, or get beat up in prisons? Well, why aren't they being put in women's prisons? Because they're also, you know, mistreated. It's just such a sham. It's such a lie. It's just direct access to abuse more women. This denial of what it really is insane. And especially from women, the handmaidens was the most brutal thing to me. I mean, there's some things where, with friendships, I'm like, oh, I have like an atheist friend and I'm a believer of God and Christian stuff and whatever. Like I can have the differences of that, like where it was, I don't know, that's the friendship is, I don't know what's going on with that one, but another one, this is where I had to draw the line. It was a woman who was a flat out handmaiden that was okay with, because January 1st, I believe California passed some sort of thing where men are allowed in women's prisons, and I tagged her in it. I know I keep bringing this up, but it's still painful. And she was like, going along with, well, if they feel that way, we must protect them. And I was like, I can't. It's just so funny that it came on me to like basically be like, I have to undo these ties of the friendship with you. Yeah, that's just a friendship thing where I have to draw the line and be like, my door is open, but I don't know how I worded it, because I wasn't like, you're not my friend anymore, but I was like, I can't do this. Like, if you're literally not sticking up for me as a woman and yourself, this is where I draw the line. It was painful, and I was just like, geez, man, because she was to me then like a feminist. She wore the pink pussy hat, and I realized that she's a lib fem thing or whatever.
Right.
But my mind was blown. I was like, wait, you were this like feminist in my eyes, and look at this. Was like, what the fuck? It was insane. It's not a fun journey, but I think it's an important journey to take for every woman to like go through what we've been going through and learning about all this, because God.
Yeah, it's enough to make you really, it hurts really bad when you first figure out what's happening. I was a very vocal proponent. Well, I guess I wasn't all that vocal. I was too busy performing unpaid labor to be all that active in any sort of political scheme, whatever. But I was pro-trans, man. I thought like, oh my God, it's gay plus. We've just got to support these poor people. Like, oh, these poor kids. Like, look at these statistics saying that they're going to kill themselves if we aren't, and of course,
by the way, they kill themselves after they've done all the trans or body modification, chopping off body parts, and they realize I didn't solve it. And a lot of the they say it's a suicide thing, but a lot of the murders and whatnot happens to the prostituted transsexuals. Like, it's just such a lie.
Yeah, prostitution is like we've discussed. Prostitution is unsafe. It's really you're a very vulnerable person in prostitution, and I don't think that anyone should be prostituted. And I don't think that we don't need a class of people to help men to not accidentally fuck the sex property of another man, which is what prostitution is. I'm sorry, I know that's going to hurt a lot of people, but that's the truth. Like the class of women, the creation of a class of women that are basically, instead of being private male property, like passed down from a father, passed over as a commodity from the father to the husband, it's a class of women who are treated like, and who aren't actually, but who are treated like public male property. So, it's like a safety valve, a cultural safety valve, so that men can continue to fuck women, but not accidentally fuck a virtuous wife or a daughter or a virgin daughter. Because if they fuck a virtuous wife or a virgin daughter, then somehow that diminishes her marriageability. That diminishes her value as a fucking commodity to men in patriarchy. Fuck. Like, this is not liberation. This isn't empowering for women. Prostitution is empowering for men.
Yes.
Okay, just like it's about men and male orgasms and male economic advantage and male cultural and social advantage. It's not liberating for us.
The use of the internet and social media, implementing this fucking propaganda. It's like, if something was true, why do you have to keep repeating it and hire all these people that have a huge public platform like AOC, and I don't know who else has tweeted out the sex work is work thing. It's like, if this shit was true, why the hell do we keep repeating it? And why is it now in this 2021 or whenever that started, 2020, I don't know. Why, if that's true, why haven't we been saying this for throughout all the years? It's just like, people need to wake the fuck up. People are just such, sheep, and they really take stuff at surface value, and they really believe what they read. And, God, if something's true, you don't need to say it. It just is true.
Right.
So if the shit is being repeated over and over and you keep hearing it, it's just one of those things that it's like, I think effective propaganda stuff or advertising
Mm-hmm.
or whatever you want to call it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, as human
Unfortunately.
beings, we're social, we're mammals, we're hardwired to want to comport with what the people we see around us are doing. And
Yep.
there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be
Mhm.
pro-social and get along and help other people. And, obviously those are really positive pro-social values that it makes perfect sense why people, when presented with a very limited representation of what's going on with this whole trans issue,
Mhm.
um, they don't get all of the information and all of the facts about how this is going to actually play out, how it's going to actually impact
I get none
women
of
and
it.
girls and children, male children as well.
Mhm.
I was recently thinking about the rape of the woman who was uh, incarcerated with a man because he said he was a woman, and they put him in the women's prison, and he perpetrated a rape. So I was thinking about, there are all kinds of prisons. There are also youth detention centers. What about, boot camps for girls? Well,
Or Girl
I
Scout
actually.
scout leaders being transitiving males. That's already happening. Holy shit. Holy shit.
Mhm,
And a
mhm,
man who has a fucking autogonophilic fetish that's dressing like a woman is around children. This is happening everywhere, not
mhm,
just with Girl Scouts, in so many scenarios.
mhm,
Drag Queen
mhm,
Story Hour in libraries. How
mhm.
many of those stories have recently come out of them having, crazy amount of child porn? Dear God, people are just like,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, I just think that, there are really positive values being misdirected and manipulated.
Oh,
People
yeah.
who are really good people, who are bright, who are caring, their
Yes.
their values to be caring and to try to help the vulnerable are
It's because
being
they're framing it like that.
manipulated.
Yeah, I've been saying that for,
Yeah,
yep, the exact same thing. It's very
right. And
clearly that.
yeah. So I don't blame people who,
Yeah.
like I was, who are just wanting to protect and help,
Like
um,
teachers, of course, they would be like, oh, okay, because teachers usually are very caring, and it's no
right.
wonder
Yeah.
why that shit is easily taken hold. And I think
Mhm,
most schools, I'm
mhm,
not sure what schools haven't. I don't know what schools are
mhm.
safe, to be honest. I'm not sure. Maybe Maria Keffler of Partners for Ethical Care could answer that because I interviewed her
Hmm.
and she talked a little bit about that. But
I like them. I like that
oh, they're
organization.
wonderful. They're so good.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Me
Well,
too.
we're at an hour and 46, and I could definitely talk forever. And I
Whoa.
know. I mean, I would
That's
love to have you
long.
on again. It's never like an ending when I have a guest on. It's always like
Oh.
a appetizer, really. I mean, my doors are
Oh,
open.
okay.
Well, if you have
You're
anything you
making
want
me
to talk about.
hungry.
Is there any links or social media stuff or anything that people can find you at?
Yes, I have a blog on WordPress that I really have to flesh that out some more, but it is, I sent it to you. I'm looking
Mhm.
it up right now. It is, ooh, oh, Lara Polanco. Shit, hold on. Here it is. Lara Polanco. Yeah, it's larapolanco.wordpress.com. So I write some stuff there. I
Can you
haven't
spell that
done,
out? Just because this goes on the
yep.
podcast as well, and they won't be able to. Well, I mean, they can read it, but
Oh, okay. It is LARAPOLANGCO.wordpress.com.
awesome.
So yeah, I write about patriarchy and stuff, and I haven't gone there and written much, but I'm about to just blow it up. I
You
really have.
should do it, do it, do it. We
Yeah,
need
I
it.
really, yeah. And then I
And
got a
remember to save
SoundCloud
your
too.
stuff if you post it there, because I have heard horror stories of someone's 8-year research where they put it, I think it was, I swear to God, I think it was WordPress and they took it all off.
Oh,
Like,
let me
make
guess
sure you save it
why.
elsewhere. Oh, yeah, you know why.
Yeah, yeah, I know why. It's because they don't believe in genderism.
Mhm. Yeah, well, yeah,
That's
it was
not okay. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
All
100%.
right. Lindsay, this has been amazing. The time just flew. I'm
I
sorry
know.
I kept on
Oh, don't be
going.
sorry. What? No. This is what I want. This is why I do this. I bring on women to tell their story and just to preach because we need it. And I'm very
Yeah,
happy to know you and meet all these wonderful women. It's
me
amazing.
too.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming on. Thank you,
Oh,
thank you,
thank you
thank you.
so much for having me, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yes. All right. Bye,
Okay.
people.
Bye.